Imagine this. It's late 2012, inside Beijing's cavernous Great Hall of the People. The air is thick with choreographed formality. Thousands of party delegates, a sea of dark suits, watch as an unassuming official named Xi Jinping steps up to the podium. The room is dark, save for the theatrical glow of immense red banners overhead. At this moment, the United States is preoccupied. It's grappling with the long shadow of the 2008 financial crisis and the complexities of the Arab Spring. China, in the American imagination, is a predictable, if sometimes difficult, economic partner. So, on the surface, this is a routine party Congress handover, a predictable transfer of power from one grey-suited leader to the next. The world's media and Washington's analysts expected continuity. They expected another decade of quiet, collective leadership. But beneath the surface calm, a political earthquake is beginning. In the next few years, this man will systematically dismantle the very system that brought him to power. He will break every rule Americans thought they understood about China's trajectory. By the end of the decade, he will stand as the nation's most powerful leader since Mao Zedong, reshaping the global order in ways no one in Washington saw coming. In this film, we'll uncover how Xi's meteoric rise happened and why it blindsided the United States so completely. By the end, you'll see the hidden forces that propelled him to the top and understand what his consolidation of power means for us all. Now, picture an even more intimate scene away from the grand theater of the Great Hall. In a dimly lit room deep inside the party headquarters, the five-starred red flag of China hangs heavy over a long mahogany table. The ghosts of the past are present here, their official portraits lining the walls, a silent testament to the established order. Into this sanctum, Xi Jinping, a man once branded a princeling, but who cultivated an image as a man of the people, enters quietly. Under the sterile, flickering lights, cameras snap his face, a calm, almost inscrutable mask. But behind the placid exterior, which many mistook for weakness, was an iron determination forged in the crucible of the Cultural Revolution. He's just 58, the son of a revolutionary hero, but he is about to rewrite China's destiny. It's easy to think it's just another Chinese political shuffle. Why should I care? The answer is because the West's entire strategy was built on a fundamental misreading of this moment. We expected change, yes, but we expected it to be gradual, liberalizing, and predictable. We assumed China's leaders were technocrats, focused solely on economic growth. We did not expect a political ideologue with a grand nationalist vision. Like a quiet storm gathering far out at sea, the forces behind Xi's rise were brewing long before 2012. But in that moment, most of the world was still asleep. By the end of this film, you'll understand not just his ascent was unexpected, but we will explore how he rewrote the rules of Chinese power and what his new era means for America and for you. This is the system we're decoding, how one man's journey from a provincial post to the pinnacle of global power caught the world's reigning superpower completely and dangerously off guard. To understand Xi's rise, we go back to the beginning. Xi Jinping was born in 1953 in Beijing into China's red nobility. His father, Xi Jinping, was a high-ranking communist revolutionary, a national hero who helped found the People's Republic. Xi's childhood should have been privileged. But in 1966, when Mao Zedong unleashed the Cultural Revolution, even family ties couldn't protect him. At just 10 years old, Xi's father was purged, branded an enemy of the revolution. Young Xi's family was torn apart. They were publicly humiliated. His sister even took her own life amid the chaos. As a teenager, Xi was sent down from Beijing to a remote village in Shanxi province, a common fate for many youths of that era. Picture Xi, once city-bred, now living in a mud cave in Yan'an, the very cradle of the communist revolution. He worked as a farm laborer and party youth leader, learning the harsh life of rural China. Those years were brutal, testing his character. He later recalled overcoming 5 hurdles of life in the countryside: fleas, hunger, labor, boredom, and ideological doubt. But something else happened there. Xi learned resilience. Surrounded by poverty, he bonded with the rural poor. This hardship became his crucible, forging a leader who could say he understood the common people's struggles. In 1975, after years in the fields, Xi got a lucky break. He was admitted to Tsinghua University as a worker-peasant-soldier student, studying chemical engineering. By 1979, Xi graduated and began a career in the party's propaganda and military offices in Beijing. His early assignments weren't glamorous, but he impressed his bosses. The combination of revolutionary lineage and sent-down youth experience made him a symbol of Maoist legitimacy. Many older party leaders took note of this loyal, hard-working cadre who could bridge old and new China. So, by the early 1980s, Xi Jinping was a party insider with an unusual resume, a red scarf rebel-turned-engineer. As China entered Deng Xiaoping's era of reform and opening, Xi quietly climbed the ranks in regional posts. Xi's ascent through the party bureaucracy was steady and dramatic. In 1985, he moved to Hebei province for a deputy party chief job. By 1988, he was party secretary of a poor Fujian town, and by 1999, he became governor of Fujian province. There, he oversaw impressive economic growth and corruption crackdowns, earning a reputation as a no-nonsense reformer. So how did he go from local boss to national leader? First, Xi played the loyalty card perfectly. He adopted Deng's economic policies while maintaining strict party control. In Fujian, he attracted foreign investment, built factories, and touted market reforms, all without challenging the party's authority. This rare combination made him look like the ideal next-generation leader. In 2002, Xi was promoted to party secretary of Zhejiang, a booming coastal province. His popularity soared as Zhejiang's economy thrived under his watch. Then, in 2007, after a minor scandal ousted Shanghai's boss, Xi was tapped to briefly run Shanghai. By late 2007, he was elevated to the Politburo Standing Committee, China's supreme decision-making circle. In one stroke, Xi had become one of the 5th generation of Chinese leaders, the youngest on the Standing Committee. By 2008, the sign was clear. Xi Jinping was Hu Jintao's designated successor. He was appointed Vice President of China, the only candidate in line behind Hu. No one outside the party objected. In the secretive world of Chinese power, Xi's rise seemed preordained. To foreign observers, Xi was still largely unknown, but the party brass expected him to be manageable and cooperative. After a decade of relatively quiet, consensus-based rule under Hu Jintao, the stage was set for a transition. In November 2012, at the 18th Party Congress, Xi Jinping became General Secretary of the CCP, the top job. A year later, he was also elected President of China. Overnight, Xi was the paramount leader of the world's second-largest economy, inheriting both its immense potential and its deep-seated problems. But Xi's ascent didn't stop with titles. He immediately set out to consolidate power like no modern Chinese leader before him. First, the anti-corruption drive. Xi launched a brutal nationwide purge of tigers and flies, corrupt officials at every level. He arrested or disciplined over 6 million officials in his first decade, including figures once thought untouchable, like Zhou Yongkang, the former security chief, and senior military generals Xu Kaiho and Guo Boxiong. Publicly, this was pitched as cleaning up the party. But, effectively, it eliminated rivals and potential challengers, creating a bureaucracy that was either fiercely loyal or paralyzed by fear. The irony? Only about 4% of those caught were thrown out, suggesting the campaign was more about enforcing discipline than achieving justice. Second, the cult of personality. Xi surrounded himself with imagery. His face now adorns Beijing's skyline in propaganda posters. If Mao had the little red book, Xi has Xi Jinping thought enshrined in the party constitution, elevating his ideological status to the same level as the nation's founder. This wasn't just symbolic, it became required reading for 90 million party members. By 2022, he was granted a third term as party boss and president, an unprecedented move that shattered the post-Mao practice of collective leadership. Most shocking of all, China's legislature abolished presidential term limits in 2018. With almost no public debate, the path was cleared. Xi can now rule for life if he wants, an idea so foreign that even US President Trump joked, "Maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday." Third, new institutions. Xi created and took personal charge of a host of new party and state bodies, effectively creating a parallel power structure. Commissions covering national security, cybersecurity, and deepening reform allowed him to bypass the traditional government bureaucracy and concentrate decision-making directly in his own hands. This centralization extended to the military. He instructed the People's Liberation Army that it must be ready to take Taiwan by force by 2027. And he expanded China's navy and missile forces at a breakneck pace. Suddenly, America couldn't assume the Pacific Fleet was unchallenged. The result of all this: by the mid-2020s, Xi Jinping's personal authority dwarfed that of his recent predecessors, Deng Xiaoping or Hu Jintao. He had truly become what Beijing calls a core leader, an indispensable figure who can bend the entire state apparatus to his will, reshaping China and its relationship with the world. By now, Americans are asking, how did this all happen so fast? We said Xi was supposed to be manageable, so why did he throw out the old rulebook? One key answer is ideology. Xi championed the China dream, a vision of national rejuvenation that required a strong hand and full party unity. He was willing to scrap decades of post-Mao caution. Where Deng had built term limits to prevent dictatorship, Xi tore them down. Where Hu Jintao never inserted himself into the constitution, Xi wrote himself in under Xi Jinping thought. Under Xi, China set a bold new course. Three major initiatives especially put Washington on edge. First, the Belt and Road Initiative. Launched in 2013, Xi's signature foreign policy is a global Silk Road of railways, ports, and pipelines. By now, China has spent trillions building infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Europe. This isn't just trade, it's strategic influence. The Belt and Road Initiative became the world's largest infrastructure program, a direct challenge to US influence. Second, tech and industry push. Xi declared a tech arms race with the US. He championed Made in China 2025, a plan for Chinese leadership in robotics, AI, and 5G. Foreign media watched in shock as China cracked down on its own tech giants in 2020, shuttering Ant Group's IPO, fining Alibaba, only to reverse course a few years later. In 2025, Xi summoned tech titans to the Great Hall and urged them to innovate under China's model. The message was clear. The state and private sector must work together to outcompete the United States in high tech. Third, military and diplomacy. Xi's China is no longer the cautious power Hu and Jiang were. He took an aggressive line on Taiwan, the South China Sea, and India's border. He fashioned China as leader of a global justice narrative at forums like Boao, China's answer to Davos, warning against one country imposing rules on others. In other words, he directly criticized US trade sanctions and tech bans by name. Taken together, these moves gave China a new shape on the world stage. Xi's China was more nationalist and self-confident, no longer content to simply bide its time. It was now actively willing to challenge the US-led international order and its established rules. Now, let's answer the question on everyone's mind. Why was the US caught off guard? First, a fundamental underestimation of intent. Many in Washington, citing the precedent of his predecessors, assumed Xi would continue a collective leadership style. Instead, he consolidated power at lightning speed. Americans expected a moderate, technocratic leader, but got a revolutionary-minded strongman. Second, economic misdirection. For years, the prevailing US policy was that economic integration would moderate China. Xi flipped that script, using China's economic heft to create dependency and decouple in ways beneficial to China. Third, a distracted America. As Xi asserted control, the US was consumed by domestic political turmoil. Recall 2018. Americans were talking trade wars and tweets when Xi removed term limits. Few in Congress recognized the gravity of a Chinese president for life. Fourth, the quiet coalition. Xi built alliances with Russia, Iran, and the Global South, often through forums like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. While Washington focused on Europe, Beijing was buying influence in Africa and Latin America. The chessboard was changing behind closed doors. All of these caught America flat-footed. The consensus from analysts became stark. Americans had been underestimating China's strategic threat. Real stories show how Xi's moves changed lives. The Hong Kong disappointment. In 2014, many thought Hong Kong would remain a free city under one country, two systems. But in 2020, Xi ordered a national security law that crushed protests overnight. Over 200 activists were arrested. The world realized Beijing's patience had run out. The tech exec's dilemma. When Xi halted Ant Group's IPO in 2020, global investors were stunned. But by 2025, he was calling tech CEOs to revive innovation. The message was clear. Control first, competition later. The farmer's market. When China tightened exports of key ingredients in 2023, US drug prices spiked. American consumers learned the hard way how dependent they were on Chinese supply chains. The diplomat's rebuke. A new, aggressive style of wolf warrior diplomacy emerged. In 2021, a Chinese official publicly berated Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at a G20 summit, a shocking breach of diplomatic protocol. It signaled that Beijing would no longer tolerate criticism, even from key trading partners. The mineral squeeze. Then came the strategic chokehold on resources. In 2024, China restricted exports of gallium and germanium, metals crucial for semiconductors and electric vehicles. Global tech firms scrambled for alternatives, a stark reminder of Beijing's dominance over critical mineral supply chains. So where does this leave us? Xi's rise has rewritten global power. Geopolitically, China is now setting its own rules. Militarily, the Pacific balance is shifting. Economically, China is decoupling from Western dependence. Ideologically, Xi has brought back an era of one-man rule and strict nationalism. The big takeaway: Xi's unexpected rise has rewritten the 21st century script. It exposed how dangerous assumptions can be. America assumed China's next leader would follow the system, but Xi rewrote it. With Xi's rule solidified, the future is uncertain. What if China achieves common prosperity and global dominance? What if Xi pushes harder on Taiwan? What if both nations find a fragile balance? Nothing about the world will be the same. Xi didn't just lead China, he changed the game itself. After this journey through Xi's rise, here's the final takeaway. Assumptions about global power can be fatal. The US assumed China's next leader would follow set rules, but Xi made new ones. He proved that a single leader, backed by a massive state, can change history faster than anyone predicts. Reflect for a moment. How does Xi's rise connect to your life? The phone in your hand, the price of your groceries, the value of your job. They all connect back to the shifting balance of global power. The stability of our daily lives can hinge on decisions made half a world away. What do you think? Did Xi's rise catch America off guard, or were the signs always there? Are we underestimating his next move or overhyping the threat? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And remember, this story is part of a bigger puzzle. The same global forces shaping Xi's China also affect our personal lives in ways we often miss. We explored one piece of that in our earlier video. Why isn't your net worth growing? It could be this asset. Watch it next. The connection might surprise you. Until next time, I'm your host, and we're decoding the big systems shaping our world, one surprising story at a time. Thanks for watching.